This is CBN NewsWatch.
Thank you so much for joining us for CBN Newswatch. I'm Ephraim Graham. We've got lots to get to. Let's begin this half hour in the Middle East as the war in Gaza continues. Israel is on high alert, expecting a retaliatory attack from Iran and expecting it soon. CBN Middle East correspondent Julie Stahl has more.
Touring an Air Force base, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said, while the war in Gaza continues, the military is ready for fights in other areas as well.
We're in the middle of the war in Gaza, which continues in full force. At the same time, we continue our non-stop efforts to return our hostages, but we are also preparing for scenarios of challenges from other arenas.
Israeli military spokesman Daniel Hagari says if Iran does attack, it's proof they intend to escalate the fighting in the Middle East.
In the last few months, we have improved and advanced our offensive capabilities, and we will know how to act where needed.
We established a simple principle: whoever hurts us, we hurt him. We are preparing to meet the security needs of the State of Israel, both in defense and in attack.
Iran is promising to retaliate for what is widely believed to have been an Israeli strike, destroying Iran's consulate in Damascus and killing top Iranian military commanders. Middle East expert Yigal Carmon told CBN News Tehran has a mega plan to bring the Middle East under Shiite Iranian hegemony through the use of proxies, and it won't be distracted by the bombing.
Their immediate target is the Kingdom of Jordan. They go for the big thing. The big thing is to cause demonstration that will remove the king of Jordan. And that, if they succeed, will be an immensely devastating blow to Israel. To have a border of 500 kilometers on the other side, to have militias like in Iraq.
With the threat of an attack by Iran in the headlines, the State Department is warning its staffers here in Israel to limit their travel to the areas around Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, and the southern city of Beersheba. The U.S. is promising to back Israel if Iran attacks, and the top American military commander for the Middle East region is in Israel to coordinate with the Israeli military.
The goal of the operation is, of course, to destroy Hamas's ability to rehabilitate itself in the area.
Some believe Iran doesn't want a major escalation in the Middle East, but Israel is making it clear it will be ready if Iran does strike. Julie Stahl, CBN News, Jerusalem.
I want to continue our coverage now with CBN Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell, who's joining us from Jerusalem. So, Chris, there are reports saying Iran will retaliate against Israel within the next 48 hours. What can you tell us about that?
Well, I can tell you that's what U.S. intelligence is warning about, and actually it could be here on Israeli soil. And I have heard those reports as well. In fact, I got an email earlier today from the U.S. State Department, as Julie said in her report, about warning about different places to travel. Many Israeli analysts are saying, too, there might be an attack here, maybe over the weekend. But I think it's worth considering what Yigal Carmon said in Julie's report. Excuse me, Iran's thinking long-term. Excuse me again. They're thinking strategically. And the next country they see is Jordan. And if they can encircle Israel, including Jordan, that would be a huge victory for them. They care less about this tit for tat, even though it was a very strategic or a very tactical strike against one of their main architects of October 7th and one of the main generals in the Islamic army. It remains to be seen exactly what they'll do, but they think they're looking at long-term and strategically.
All right, Chris, throughout all of this, many are certainly wondering what is the latest when it comes to hostage negotiations. What are you hearing?
Well, for hostage negotiations, it's really pretty bleak for the hostages that are remaining right now, because the conditions look very bad. It looks like they haven't been getting good food. They haven't been getting medical attention. It seems like many of the the women there have been sexually abused. So it's very, very difficult for them. And it seems very bleak because Hamas is upping its demands on these people. These tragically have been there for more than 6 months. So very difficult for those hostages right now.
Indeed, frightening. Chris, what can we expect this evening on Jerusalem Dateline?
Well, we're going to have an interview with Dan Gordon. He's an Israeli-American filmmaker. He's done a whole series of documentaries on October 7th. We have that. We also have and he talks about the heroism, the history, and sort of the future of what's going to happen with Israel out of this, the hope, as he calls it. We also have an interview with former U.S. ambassador to Israel, David Friedman, about his peace plan of what happens, what he believes will bring peace, especially to Judea and Samaria. And we'll have an update. And we'll also have a story on what you would call a special thing on Jerusalem Dateline. We're going to be talking about an interview with Tucker Carlson and a Palestinian pastor, and we have somebody that's going to present a whole different point of view on that.
All right, we look forward to that and so much more. Thank you, Chris. As always, remember, we are continuing to pray for you and the entire team there in Israel. I want to remind you at home that you can see the latest from Jerusalem Dateline. You can get it tonight on the CBN News Channel. It begins at 8 Eastern. You can also watch it on the CBN News app, or you can follow it along on YouTube. Both a warning and a reminder. That is the heart of the message Japan's prime minister delivered to a joint session of Congress in Washington. He discussed security in his part of the world following Fumio Kishida's speech at the U.S. Capitol. He joined President Biden and Filipino President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. for the country's first ever joint summit. Our Caitlin Burke has more on this key relationship.
As China's influence in the Indo-Pacific grows, Japan seeks to truly solidify its relationship with the U.S. Prime Minister Kishida is specifically looking to strengthen the defense alliance, although in his address to Congress Thursday, he also emphasized Japan's position as America's global partner, ready to take on a greater role in international affairs.
I'm here to say that Japan is already standing shoulder to shoulder with the United States. You are not alone. We are with you.
Kishida stressed his country wants to help preserve freedom and democracy worldwide, not just in the Indo-Pacific.
The Japanese people are fully committed to these values. I do not want to leave our children in a society where human rights were suppressed, where political self-determination is denied, where our lives are monitored by digital technology. I know you don't either.
He himself is trying to speak to the American people to remind them that, hey, a lot of the concerns that you might have about other countries just freeloading off American power and American, treasure and sweat and tears and blood, that's not true. Japan is here to share the burden with you.
William Chu with the Hudson Institute tells CBN News Kishida's speech highlighted a shift to a more extensive alliance.
What you're having here is you need a more comprehensive approach that integrates security, trade, economic security, and also a larger sort of technological development.
Kishida pointed out examples such as Japan providing $12 billion in aid to Ukraine, collaborating with the U.S. space program, and investing in the American economy.
As the geopolitical landscape changed and as Japan grew in confidence, we expanded our outlook beyond that of being America's closest ally. We first became a regional partner of the United States, and now we have become your global partner.
As Japan steps into more of a global role, its focus is to partner with other like-minded nations. Thursday's summit is a key example. It was the first ever involving the U.S., Philippines, and Japan. Kishida says cooperation between the three countries is key to maintaining peace and stability in the Indo-Pacific. Caitlin Burke, CBN News, Washington.
Now to rising inflation and its impact on your personal finances. With consumer prices at a 6-month high, it is unlikely any interest rate cut is coming anytime soon. Consumer prices in March were up 3.5% compared to a year ago. That is higher than expected. However, economists point to a potential silver lining. A new Labor Department report says wholesale prices rose by just 0.2% last month, and that's less than expected, providing some relief to analysts while also suggesting underlying inflation may still be easing. Coming up, Republican House Speaker Mike Johnson is taking fire from all sides. He's going one-on-one with CBN's David Brody right after this. Stay with us.
Download the CBN News app, 24/7 news from a Christian perspective at home or on the road. One place for all of your news. Breaking news alerts. Set daily prayer goals and pray for news stories. Read the most important news and watch CBN News Channel live. CBN News, because truth matters. Go to cbnnewsapp.com to get the app today.
Welcome back to CBN Newswatch. America is in a spiritual battle. That is how the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, describes the divisions in the country today. He also said God has called him to be a servant leader during these turbulent times. CBN News Chief Political Analyst David Brody spoke with Speaker Mike Johnson about those challenges ahead.
Speaker Johnson, David Brody. How are you? Great to see you.
When we met in the ceremonial room on Capitol Hill, House Speaker Mike Johnson looked at ease, although his job has been anything but.
You are Speaker of the House. It kind of feels like you actually might have a different title, Herder of the Cats.
It's important to note this is not a job I ever aspired to. We got ourselves in a bit of a pickle here.
A GOP pickle that can go from sweet to sour at any time. He's the first speaker in history to take over in the middle of a session and finds himself running a one-seat Republican majority and split caucus.
Democrats typically tend to think more kind of like a union. You know, they sort of stick together. They're more monolithic. They move as a herd. They're more kind of social animals, right? Republicans, by contrast, are rugged individualists. You know, we care deeply about our core principles and our philosophy, and we're not easily moved, and that's a great blessing, usually. But when you're trying to keep all those cats together and move in the same direction with a one-vote majority, it sometimes presents challenges.
Such as House Freedom Caucus members frustrated over what they call bad spending deals with Democrats rushed through the process in typical D.C. fashion.
They're clearly concerned about the way you're governing.
Yeah, so what some of my colleagues will privately admit, but not always publicly, is they understand we have the biggest challenge that's ever been presented to the Congress.
That hasn't stopped Republican Marjorie Taylor Greene from filing a motion to vacate, to jettison Speaker Johnson, because she doesn't think he's standing up enough for conservative policy positions. Of course, that's not easy when Democrats control the White House, Senate, and you barely have a Republican majority in the House.
And so I have virtually zero leverage to be able to negotiate and get a better package.
Marjorie Taylor Greene, you're going to speak to her this week. Have you spoken to her?
I tried over the 2-week break. She wasn't interested in speaking.
She says you're, basically a deep state operative. She didn't use the word operative, but you're working for the deep state, in essence, paraphrasing. Also, she's attacked your faith.
Well, I try to follow all the biblical admonitions as I do every day, and one of them says you bless those who persecute you. I'm getting a lot of practice in that right now, and that a soft word turns away wrath.
That doesn't mean he's not pushing back against her threat.
We've got to demonstrate to the American people that we can keep the train on the tracks, and so pulling a motion to vacate, removing the speaker right now, is exactly the opposite of what we need to show the country.
Do you believe that if there's some sort of motion to vacate that she goes forward with this, that there will be some Republicans, one or two, whatever it is, that jump and go with Democrats and Hakeem Jeffries is all of a sudden speaker? Do you think that is a potential reality here?
Well, listen, if the chair is vacated, it's certainly possible you get a Democrat speaker.
And soon, Speaker Johnson will need to decide whether to put a Ukraine funding bill to a vote, something conservative members do not want.
If you put this Ukraine bill, even with some of your creative suggestions, on the floor, that's going to probably trigger that motion to vacate.
Well, we're working through all those issues with all of our members. We're trying to build that consensus that we talked about.
On the issue of abortion, consensus will be difficult for the GOP, especially now that former President Trump just refused to endorse a federal abortion ban, a move the avid pro-life speaker tells us he understands.
What we have to do right now, our challenge, is to build a culture of life. Before you can have a political consensus on an issue that's this controversial, you have to build a cultural consensus first.
So you're saying it's a smart move, at least in these times right now politically. It just seems to kind of fit the moment for now?
Well, I'm saying that we recognize right now that the votes don't exist in Congress to have a federal ban at any level. And there's a lot of work that needs to be done.
One issue where the House GOP seems unified is illegal immigration, arguing President Biden's policies have been disastrous for America.
I think they want that open border, and I think their actions show that.
Why? Why do you think they want it specifically?
It sounds like a conspiracy theory, but I think it's actually true that the ultimate design is to turn some of these illegals into voters for their cause and to change the census outcome in 2030. Because if you can distribute people around the country in strategic ways and put them in strategic places, the census does not just count citizens, it counts residents, all persons. And that could dramatically affect the map in Congress. I mean, it sounds like some sort of crazy, criminal design, and in my view it is, but I think that's what they're doing.
Johnson will certainly speak his mind, especially when it comes to his Christian faith, a stance that's led to some criticism.
Well, we've been mocked and I mean, mercilessly in the press. They've tried to attack me and my family, my wife and children, and look, we're undaunted by it. I mean, that is going to happen if you stand for truth.
And nowadays, if you say the word spiritual warfare, the left needs smelling salts at that point. I mean, so talk to me a little bit about the spiritual state of this country, of America today. And do you see it in those terms, spiritual warfare going on?
I do. I mean, if you're a Christian, that's how you understand these things. We're really in a battle of worldviews right now. It's not even a battle between Republicans and Democrats anymore. It's two competing visions over what kind of nation we are, who we are as a people. Remember, Marxism, communism, socialism are grounded in the belief that there is no creator, there is no God. And that's the essence, that's the foundation of their belief. That is not who we are.
What happens to America if that godless philosophy wins out?
Ronald Reagan said, if we ever forget that we're one nation under God, we will be a nation gone under.
Johnson is determined to do his very best to make sure that doesn't happen on his watch.
I have no value other than as a servant. I'm trying to be a servant leader here, and at a very challenging time, in very difficult circumstances. That's my humble prayer every day, that we would be able to serve well and bring honor to God in the process.
David Brody, CBN News, Washington.
A new initiative that has helped a goal to help worship leaders remove stress. Stay with us for this story. You're watching CBN News Watch on this Friday. Welcome back to CBN News Watch. Leading worship on Sunday may seem like a dream job, but many feel pressure as the weekly plans and practice for Sunday mornings continue. The worship band Shane & Shane hopes to remove some of that stress through a new initiative. CBN's Brody Carter shows us their plan.
It is possible to find everything you're looking for in Jesus.
Creatures of our God and King. College friends Shane Barnard and Shane Everett bonded over Jesus and music more than 25 years ago. That partnership has allowed Shane and Shane to reach hearts worldwide through their award-winning albums. In the last few years, they've made it a point to encourage worship leaders to deepen their walk with God.
We think the church is the answer, and we think the church is limping. And that's okay. God can use limping people. And so if you're a limping person, come and walk with us.
To help Christian musicians in that journey, Shane & Shane created the Worship Initiative, an online resource with lessons and videos focused on the music and growing a relationship with God.
We exist to do is come along worship leaders and just daily and weekly encourage them with the truth of God's word.
And so you go in, you log into the Worship Initiative, and you can take all kinds of classes. And we have interviews with people like Phil Wickham to John Piper. I mean, so the gamut is so wide,
After 10 years in service, the Worship Initiative is now partnering with Glue, an online connection engine and marketplace, expanding their services to some 70,000 churches who use the Glue platform.
The average size church is well under 100 people. And so what that means is that church may have a limitation on its access to quality resources.
Brad Hill, Chief Solutions Officer with Glue, says the Worship Initiative is their top seller on their marketplace, celebrating the Easter season with a curated set list and teaching for churches looking to get involved.
Because they know that when people drive away from the church after Easter weekend, often people are going to remember and reflect on the sermon and the music. Those are the two things that people normally talk about.
With Easter on the horizon, what is it that you would speak into local pastors, local worship leaders?
I mean, the first thing that comes to mind in the midst of all of that is like, man, the pressure is off. Like the battle is the Lord's. You're not secure or validated because the pastor thinks you did awesome or not awesome. You're secure and validated in Christ.
For worship leaders at First United Methodist Church in Graham, Texas, it's been a godsend.
Before the Worship Initiative, I was scrambling for resources. After the Worship Initiative, I know what to practice. I know how to help other people to practice.
Resources and more like it can allow churches to build up its people, ease stress, and focus on celebrating Jesus every day, not just Easter Sunday. Brody Carter, CBN News.
Hallelujah indeed. Your Friday Faithful's coming up next. Stay with us.
Get your daily quick start from CBN News. A quick read on the important news of the day delivered right to your inbox. Stay current on breaking news, politics, and entertainment. Go to quickstart.news and subscribe today.
Time now for your Friday Faithful. I want to share this reminder with you as we wrap another week together. In all that we do, remember, there is one thing that our God cannot do. Two things, actually. He cannot lie and he cannot fail. Our God can't lie. He cannot fail. I encourage you to make this a fabulous Friday and be sure to have yourself a wonderful weekend as well. Well, that will do it for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. Remember, you can always find more of our news programs on the CBN News Channel. You can find them there at any time. You can also find them online. That address is cbnnews.com. Take a moment. Let us know what you think about all the stories you've seen today or this week. You can do that by emailing us, newswatch@cbn.com. We'll see you back here come Monday. Goodbye, and God bless everybody.